Okay, we'll start with the chant. Please chant. Okay, let's do it together. Om Bhadram Karnebhihi Shrunuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashve Makshva Viryajatraha Sthirair Angais Tushtuvag Shastanubhihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swastina Indro Vridhashravaha Swastina Usha Vishwavedaha Shasti Nastaksho Arishtonemihi Shasti no Brihaspati Dadhatu Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. So we are towards the end of Mundaka Upanishad. This is the last chapter of Mundaka Upanishad. Here, the Upanishad is wrapping up. It's whatever it has taught us so far. The main teachings are over. Now Upanishad is, as I said, it's like an epilogue. Before finishing the subject, they are going through important ideas and some warnings, some caveats, which we should remember. That is what Upanishad is trying to do at the end of its final chapter. Okay. In our last class, which was the first two mantras of the last chapter, we saw that the Upanishad praised the value of what? The value of just a minute, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Serving an illumined teacher?
What?
Serving an illumined teacher?
That was not the main point.
Okay.
Study.
How to know this ātmā through what are the meditations, upasanas, and the methods?
Well, that was not the express purpose of the last two verses. What are the main point of the last two verses?
Renunciation of all desires.
Yeah, thank you. Letting go. Letting go. Okay.
Letting go, yes.
Yeah, the first verse said that those who worship, those who serve an illumined person without desire. The previous verse in the last chapter, it was said that those who serve an illumined person, but with desires, what their all desires get fulfilled. Okay. That was kind of a hook to come to an illumined person. But real thing is, those who serve or associate with a holy person, illumined person, but without any material desire, only for spiritual fulfillment or growth, they come to them. They, with time, get that reality, get that knowledge, right? And then the next verse said that whatever desires we dwell in our mind, and if we want them very badly and very strongly, circumstances make it such that we get those desires fulfilled. Okay, but that is the limit. All the material things may be fulfilled, but the highest goal that Upanishad is placing before us, transcending our small identity or ego, or realizing our spiritual nature, that will remain untouched as long as we have strong desires for enjoyment. Okay, that was the main message of last two verses. That letting go as much as we can. Many of the things we need not think, in absolute terms. we have to get rid of all the desires, which is not possible. But the desires which we see that don't serve much purpose, but at the same time keep us bogged down, like chained. Can we let go of those desires? That is the point of the Upanishad. Now, in next two verses, Upanishad gives us caveat. The caveat is what will not take us to that knowledge. What are antitheses to the knowledge? Okay, so that we remain careful about it. Careful. So these are the caveats in the next two verses. The next two verses are start with the same expression, na ayam ātmā labhyaḥ. This atma, this spiritual reality, this self cannot be realized or experienced through what? If you have this, we cannot. If we have these problems or limitations, then it is difficult to realize this spiritual reality. What are those we should be aware of? That will be spoken in the next two verses. Let's see. Verse 3.2.3 first, and then 3.2.4. Verse 3.2.3 says, na ayam ātmā pravacanena labhyaḥ, na medhayā, na bahunā śrutena, yam eva eṣaḥ vṛṇute tena labhyaḥ, tasya eṣaḥ ātmā vivṛṇute tanūṃ svām. This self is not attained through discourse, nor through intellect, nor through extensive study. The self is attained by those who intensely seek it. To that person, the self reveals its essence. So interesting thing, whatever we usually think that if we attend a lot of discourse, that is, we study many scriptures, we increase our intellectual muscle about understanding these Upanishads or scriptures or Vedanta, or we listen to many of the teachings of Vedanta. They alone sufficient. So this verse says no. Mere by studying, mere by intellectualizing won't give us the highest knowledge. So these are actually the conditions for spiritual growth. The Upanishad is trying to alert us about the pitfalls. The na ayam ātmā labhyaḥ, this self, Atma, cannot be realized. How? By what means it cannot be realized? Pravacanena, study. By merely studying books or even scriptures won't give us the wisdom, the spiritual wisdom. Swami Vivekananda said that if books were alone the knowledge, then libraries would have been the most wise people. The wisest person in the world will be the biggest library, but libraries are not, even though there are books. So similarly, many of us, which is really a very dicey thing, that we get interested into Vedanta or whatever, then we read books, and then books after books after books, and then we also harbor a desire that read all these books. And whatever I am hearing, someone is reading, oh, it's a great book I read. I heard a great lecture on this book or this topic. I should then read that also. So these are also desires, good desires, but we should also remember the limitations in them. Okay, only merely reading books after books cannot help us. They can support us. They can keep the that longing going, or keep us in the touch of the material. But reading in itself is not sufficient. Okay, unless we read it, unless we understand it, unless we practice it, and not only that, unless we practice it when it is difficult to practice. That is the most important challenge. That when things are fine, probably we can do manana, nidhyasana, we are Brahman. But when things are difficult, can we practice them? That is the real question. So practice is so important. Now medhayā, labhyaḥ. So what is medha? Medha is not just any type of intellect. Here medha means the capacity to grasp the meaning of the scripture. Okay, as we have seen that when we read Upanishads or Vedanta, some ideas are very subtle, and it takes time to really grasp them. It is not just like reading a story book or a history book or a geography book that as we are reading, so we are understanding. No, some of the things are so subtle, it intrigues us, sometimes paradoxical things. We have seen Upanishads are full of paradoxes. So to understand them, we need some medha. This medha is not same as what we call IQ. Okay, we in our day-to-day life, we say some people are very intelligent. They might have extraordinary IQ, 130, 140, more than 120. They might grasp many things of the world, but they may not grasp the essence of the Upanishad. Okay, and this I am not telling theoretically. I have seen that. I have seen these many people who are considered very intelligent and went to great universities and in great posts, but they may not be able to grasp the spiritual essence of the Upanishad. So that is called medha. That is something extremely important to progress in the path of knowledge or wisdom. What is the essence of what is the real thing Upanishad is telling us? But even that capacity to grasp abstract things or subtle things, don't think that this is the ultimate. There is joy in that. There is no amount, no question that there is such a joy, intellectual joy, when we can grasp the Upanishads or scriptures or Bhagavad Gita. Wow, what a nice idea we have got. Earlier I had this question. Now I see the answer here in this Upanishad. These are intellectual joy, no doubt important, but those capacity to grasp even subtle materials are also not in itself sufficient. That is Upanishad is telling. That it's just by being cerebral, we cannot. Just being brainy about understanding the scriptures will not give us the ultimate knowledge. Now medhayā. Now bahunā śrutena. Not merely by attending many classes. In that case, you two would have been the most illumined people. YouTube would have been the most illumined people if just by listening, so many of talks would have done the job. So the pravacana, study, medha, intellect, and classes are insufficient to realize the self. Because learning about swimming is one thing, and actually swimming is a different. When I was a novice, I did not know how to swim. So in our main monastery, they started teaching us how to swim. All the novices should learn to swim. And then I started watching a lot of YouTube videos how to swim. Lot of YouTube videos, and there's confusion. One person is recommending one style, another person is recommending. So I am trying each style. So nicely I am watching the video, but when I actually go to the water, ultimately matters is whether I can float and move. So all of this theoretical knowledge about swimming just went out of the window as soon as I am in the water. Similarly, reading many things, reading many books, understanding all of this, but not able to really practice them, forget about even experiencing them, but practicing them when we need them the most. That is the thing. When we need them the most, when we are in crisis, when we are in uncertainty, can this knowledge, this scriptural knowledge, can come to our help? That is a great test. So Upanishad says merely doing this will not be. Self must be directly experienced, not merely studied. So what is the term we have learned for direct experience? It has to be experienced directly, right? You remember the term?
Aparokshanubhuti?
Aparokshanubhuti, yeah. So no question mark, please. Keep it in mind. Direct experience is aparokshanubhuti. Aparoksha anubhuti, direct realization. Direct transcendental realization is what Upanishad is prescribing. But at the same time, remember, the main message is not that study, intellectual understanding, or listening to classes are useless. But the main message is something more is needed. Okay. So what is the more? If study, if grasping will not take us, but then what will take us to that knowledge? Yam eva yesho vṛṇute tena labhyaḥ. So the self is attained by those who intensely seek it with sincerity and devotion. So this intensity of seeking reflects our commitment to spiritual growth. For example, yearning, the value or power of yearning, we see that most of the spiritual masters, Buddha or Jesus or say Sri Ramakrishna, all their main spiritual practice was yearning. They were earnestly seeking this spiritual goal. They were not doing too much of intellectualization of the scriptures. Okay. So they really wanted to realize the truth or transcend themselves, have a spiritual experience, how earnest they were. See, in Sri Ramakrishna's biography, this, if you read it, that his first spiritual experience, when he had, till then, he was not even, doing any other spiritual practice. The main spiritual practice that gave him such a grand spiritual experience was sheer yearning, sheer seeking. Okay, that is what Upanishad is telling. One who sincerely seeks jam eva eṣaḥ vṛṇute. That is one who intensely seeks it. To that person, what happens? The ātmā reveals itself. Tasya eṣaḥ ātmā vivṛṇute tanūṃ. Tanūṃ means his own essence. So self reveals its own essence to the one who seeks it earnestly. So what is the thing? Self is in Vedanta, it is already present. It is not something we are going to create. It is present. To an yearning seeker, what happens is the veil of ignorance just vanishes, or the veil of ignorance lifts off. The self is revealed, such as just the example that a hidden treasure is covered with a cloth, and when we remove the cloth, we don't create a new treasure, but the treasure reveals itself. Similarly, if someone seeks this knowledge very earnestly, with intensity, just as if a thirsty person in desert, how they seek the water. Sri Ramakrishna gives the example that someone asks the teacher, when I will be realize God. Then the teacher takes the person by hand and takes to a pond and drowns the person inside the pond. And the person then grasps for breathing, and then the teacher says, how were you feeling when you were under the water? So he was grasping for water, grasping for air. So Sri Ramakrishna says, exactly, that is, the teacher says, Sri Ramakrishna tells the story, the teacher says, that is the kind of yearning when you know that you are very near the goal, very near the goal. Even for devotees, Sri Ramakrishna says that if one has got that kind of yearning, vyakulata, seeking, I really, really want, it has to be understood. It is the crimson dawn, crimson color of the dawn, that is sunrise is not far away. Sunrise is very soon. So someone who has yearning, vyakulata, they are very near the goal. So such a person who seeks so earnestly, or if you remember, another example is given, Dipto Rashi, Jalo Rashi, Dipto Shira, Jalo Rashi. That is, as if I am running to water, as if my hair is on fire. My head is on fire, and now I am running for water. The earnestness, the yearning with which I am running towards water when my hair is on fire, that kind of yearning, if we have, then we are very close to the truth. Okay. To such a person, ātmā is revealed. Okay, so what is the main message of this teaching or this verse? That cultivate that yearning. Okay, not remaining satisfied only with intellectual understanding of the Upanishads. Intellectual understanding of the Upanishad is indeed a really a covetable joy or a higher order joy, but we need not be satisfied with that alone. That will remain as a paroksha, indirect knowledge. Okay. After reading all of these, there should be some desire in our mind to realize that spiritual nature, which is the infinite, which is going beyond all these limitations and going beyond our small ego and the self-centeredness. Can we become large? Can we become bigger than small I? So that kind of yearning we need to harbor in our mind. How can we do that? One way is to read the lives of illumined people, that how in the face of so much of difficulties, they still went on. That encourages us, that inspires us to keep that yearning towards the goal. Okay. Then there is an alternative interpretation of this verse, we interpreted it this way, that one who seeks this spiritual reality, to them, Atman is revealed. Another interpretation is whom the Atma chooses. One who is chosen by Atma, to them, Atma or self reveals its true nature. Okay. This is more from the standpoint of a devotional perspective, that God chooses them. Now, many are called, some are chosen. There's an expression in Christianity that many are called, some are chosen. Probably that's many people come, but some are chosen by God. To them, God reveals God's true nature. In the same way, to some people, some fortunate people, as it were, the whole nature comes to help them in their spiritual pursuit. And they get the right kind of connections, right kind of mentors, right kind of group, and probably with that, their spiritual growth becomes much more smooth. So it appears in the hindsight that I was not responsible for all of this. It was not merely my making. Things helped me, So some people who believe in a personal God, they believe that God helped me to put me into such favorable situations that now I can focus on spiritual path. Just this morning, one person from a big Silicon Valley farm, company, a huge, one of the most famous, he came to meet me from Bay Area to talk about his spiritual life. So he just 2 years ago realized that he has achieved everything, like a big position in big company, and his family is well settled, has no problem, he has got recognition. But then he felt that none of these can give permanent satisfaction. Okay. And so he is pursuing spiritual path. And so what he did, he resigned from all of his responsibility. And so he was asking me today that is it a good decision he has taken, and how he can better utilize it. So I gave him some suggestion, and I told him that since it is giving you so much of joy and quality of life, and you can afford to take such leave from work, so carry on for 2 years more. You are extremely fortunate that you can afford to have such a opportunity. Even before retiring, you can spend. So this year he has been attending many important spiritual retreats, and he is reading very seriously the Upanishad and making connections. The idea is this, that person is fortunate, okay, as if he was chosen, as if the Brahman or Atman, suddenly made everything so easier or accessible to that person. So in that sense also, not only I was seeking, but it was as if the Brahman or Atman was also seeking me to reveal its secret. No, it was revealed to me. So in that way also, this verse is explained, that not only through study, not only through intellectual grasping, not only attending many classes, but the seeking, the eagerly seeking is important, and so also is important. Some people are chosen mysteriously by God but divine being, divine power, they get to know this. Even if a person has yearning, it seems the more fundamental task for so many people is to try to convince the mind to go in and pay attention in inner awareness. Initially, there seems to be great resistance to this. Indeed, indeed, indeed. So even if we are convinced that this is we need it, but still it is, you know why? This is called habit. In Upanishad or Vedanta, they say it is not only one lifetime of habit. It is many lifetimes of habit that we have neglected our spiritual dimension. And so naturally, we try to veer to our materialistic tendencies and getting wallowed in worldly affairs, things which are not needed. Okay, so it is true. It is true. Even if we know, still this asambhavana or viparita bhavana bothers us. In fact, the third practice of Vedanta, we have savana, manana, and nididhyasana. If you look at it, they three serve three purposes. Shravana is doubt about the reality. Doubt. What is the reality? So that doubt has to go by listening. What is the path? What is the goal? That doubt is gone by listening or reading. Manana. Manana is, even after we listen all of these, there is intellectual doubts. Whether the Upanishad is telling the right thing, because they are telling almost contradictory thing. The world which is so real to us, Upanishad is telling this is a secondary reality. There is even a higher reality. Okay, and that higher reality, we are not able to at all grasp at our present state of mind. So is Upanishad telling the right thing or wrong thing? Reason, that is manana. And even after reasoning and reasoning everything out, and after even being intellectually convinced, our old habits die hard. We still continue to identify ourselves with our usual this body-mind complex. And to avoid that, Upanishad says the third practice, nididhyasana. Nididhyasana is bringing that idea again into mind, again and again, that we are Atman or Brahma or divine. Okay. So Victoria's question that even after knowing, mind does not want to go there. For that, the practice is nididhyasana, Vedantic meditation. Okay. All right. Any further question about this verse? Then we can move on to the next one. Yes, Subhash, you want to ask something?
So this thing about yearning, Maharaj, I mean, you're doing everything, but seems to be mechanical. Huh?
Yeah,
So how to develop yearning to do it
yeah, indeed.
more intensely?
This is something everybody struggles, how to have that yearning. But only way I think, if we can think of the state, the state after illumination or the experience itself, if we think of the grandeur of the experience, or what it will bring to us, our life, then this yearning may keep growing. At least it will be still in burning. It may not be burning in its full power, but it still will be there if we, time to time, remain think ourselves or remind ourselves about that transcendent experience. Transcendent experience. That's why I feel that these are so interconnected that someone has to have some level of spiritual experience, okay, to keep the yearning going. Otherwise, everything will appear to be a fantasy, a fantasy. If we have not have little bit of experience in a deep meditation, even for a few seconds, if we could transcend time, space, identity, that memory is sufficient to, keep our yearning going. That fades, this experience also fades, but the memory also tells us that such a grand or worthwhile project it is to seek the ātmā, to transcend our limitations. That is, I think that is how we can keep our yearning intact. Okay, it's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing. Yes, Jina ji, please.
Sorry, I was muted. I feel like the statement ātmā will choose the seeker or the seeker cultivates a yearning can be a little discouraging to a novice seeker, because even with the yearning part, the first two, listening and manana, I believe it's thinking about it, is easy. But going to the third stage, is it nididhyasana?
Yeah, what's your question?
So I think it's not a question, it's a statement, and can be a little discouraging.
What?
Because it's we mentioned, there's a statement you said that ātmā will choose the seeker. Or it could be interpreted as the seeker cultivating a yearning, akin to when you are underwater, you're gasping for air. That's a very, very, very intense yearning. And the method for developing a yearning is I can't say it, the listening, the thinking, and nididhyasana.
Right.
That is difficult because listening and thinking is easy, but not jumping to the third, nididhyasana.
Yeah.
And the idea that the ātmā will choose the seeker is absolutely discouraging to me. It's like, I'm going to sit here and wait for how many lifetimes. So
yeah, but at the same time,
go ahead.
The
No,
thing
it's a statement. It can be a little
discouraging. Yeah, but at the same time, it is not a random act. It's not a random thing whom the ātmā chooses. Okay. It is not that someone was not at all wanting any of these and suddenly everything became so easily available to them. Maybe even in these lifetimes, maybe initial period of their life, they had this kind of yearning and which got buried down, and suddenly everything becomes favorable again. And to Vedanta's own logic is sometimes the person may not seem qualified for such a great experience, but probably in previous lives, not in this life, we are only seeing a part of the picture, but probably they did a lot in their previous life. And suddenly in this life, even without their much striving, things became as if were easier. Okay. So the point here is, you say that whom ātmā chooses, they get to get that knowledge. It is discouraging. Indeed, had it been random. Secondly, even if it is a random, what can we do? We do what is in our hand. That is, can we cultivate yearning? we cannot live on chance, right? Let Atma choose me. I will not do anything. Let's see Atma whether chooses me or not. So that is not in my control. What is in my control is can I cultivate my yearning? Can I increase my yearning? The kind of yearning that we hear about or this Upanishad is telling about may be too difficult for us. But still, within the framework that we are in, can we still keep on cultivating this? This is what will help us.
Swami, it
Yeah.
just seems like yearning is like loving God, loving the divine being. And so then that's kind of that's a devotional thing, loving God, knowing that God loves me and I love God. But then when we move it over to the more intellectual or jnani side, we just take that love and it turns into yearning.
Right.
It's,
True.
That's why I like to do it both. I like to have both the combination, because if I can't figure out how to yearn in an intellectual way, the devotional way definitely helps me get there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yearning, very good. Thank you so much. I was about to tell this, that yearning is an emotional, it's a feeling. It does not come from intellectualization. Okay, that is where it stops. The yearning is a function of feeling. Okay, it is not a function of intellect. That is why they are telling that don't ever ask ChatGPT or any chatbot about moral decisions. Okay, because they will intellectualize it. They will go through all the moral principles, all the moral books, but they will be missing the most important part, is feeling. Many a times our moral decisions should be based on feeling, not only merely dry intellectualizing. Okay. In the same way, this love, this yearning for realization is what a maturity of intellect, which has now become a feeling. It's a feeling, okay? It's a powerful feeling that is not only dependent on intellectual grasping. Okay, so that love has to come. Yes, Preetiji.
Pronounce Maharaj.
Yes, first I have a question. I have not seen you for a long time. Where you absent?
Yes, Maharaj. I went to India for some
Oh,
time.
I see.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So and that's why I missed quite a few classes, and
Okay.
so my question is related to the discussion right now, which is about yearning, and I did a lot of pilgrimage this time when I went to India, and I'm just wondering that at least I find for myself that when things get more mechanical, and we're attending classes and we're doing this, our daily routines, that pilgrimage somehow draws us out, and it refreshes everything, and also gives us, I found, where you are exposed to so many other people who are trying to reach the same goal, and it
Inspires.
yes,
Their yearning also inspires you.
yes,
Yeah, true. Absolutely. No doubt about that. Yeah. Yes, something, Kharji. Yes. I cannot hear you. Your speaker is somehow not working. Yeah.
You can turn the video off and try to speak. Maybe that will work.
No, we cannot.
I need to reboot.
Okay, all right. So let's move on to the next verse, okay? And when we can let us.
Maharaj, just one more thing before you leave this yearning thing. Satsanga, holy company, truly holy people, if you come in contact, that helps us.
Totally. People of like-mindedness, that helps us a lot for seeing their yearning, their faith, their commitment. That also helps us, definitely, no doubt about that. Yeah, Mrs. Carmen, yes.
Yeah, I can never find my hand on Friday, the little hand. Swami, from my mind, the yearning, I would think, would build from life to life. Because when I was 12, I got very disenchanted with Christian church. I was a good church-going child. And I remember just sitting there out in the forest, calling out with yearning at 12 years old. So I think that came from a previous life. I was ready to be searching and yearning. And so maybe people should be patient that the amount of yearning and seeking you have now and investigation and energy is what you've brought to this life. And then our practice can help cultivate it.
Yeah.
But not feel bad if you don't have some report card.
Yeah.
on yearning.
Yeah, exactly.
So that is all.
Yeah, truly. These things, in fact, these things, frankly speaking, goes beyond the realm of logic. Who gets yearning? We try to explain that probably this person, environment supported, that person's this, that, but sometimes really it appears that it is beyond. Who knows why someone becomes so yearning for something, and others cannot. It's really a mystery. Yeah, sometimes.
Swami, sometimes I also notice for myself that yearning has come from desperation, like being in a very bad place. And I've got to find God.
Yeah, exactly. Some wake up call or some disillusionment, all of this really starts the yearning, but keep the yearning going. That is important. Keep the yearning going. First we have some yearning because of some experience, definitely some experience or some thoughts, maybe some books inspires us for this yearning. But to keep the yearning going, that is a challenge. And that is what Upanishad is asking us to. That you came to Upanishad with yearning for some higher purpose, but don't get carried away by the verses of the Upanishad, by the subtlety of the Upanishads, by so many commentaries of the Upanishad. Don't get carried away with all of this. So many books will be available every day. Books after books after books on each Upanishad. But remember that keep the bigger picture in view, that all these books alone won't give. Only we have to have the right yearning for realization. Then only all of this will fall in place. Okay, that is the point of this verse. Arundhati, you want to ask something?
Yes, Maharaj. It's not a question. I just wanted to comment on what Gina was saying, that, the Atman choosing us is kind of discouraging. But to me, the fact that we are here listening to the Upanishad is encouraging, that we are chosen by the Atman. Too.
Of course. Among thousands and millions of people, not everybody is interested in spirituality, right? And among those who are interested, some are interested in ātmā, some are interested in the Mundaka Upanishad, okay, among billions of people. So we may think or we may take joy in the idea that we have been chosen. We have been chosen few to study the Upanishads. So Vṛṇute's idea is, this is more encouraged that we have been chosen by ātmā to at least reflect on ātmā. So instead of being discouraged, we should be encouraged. Okay, so I think we have answered all the questions or discussion. Well, let's move on to the next verse. That is also very important. Na ayam ātmā balahīnena labhyaḥ na ca pramādāt tapasā va api aliṅgāt etaiḥ upāyaiḥ yatate yah tu vidvān tasya eṣaḥ ātmā viśate brahma dhāma. This self is not attained by the weak, nor through carelessness, nor by mere physical austerities, nor without inner renunciation, that is transcendence of ego, but one who is wise and who strives with these means merges with the infinite. So a lot of caveats are here. Earlier one was only about one quality to develop, that is yearning. Here, Upanishad is telling some more. So what is it is telling? That this ātmā cannot be realized balahīnena, that is, those who are weak, those who don't have strength. What does it mean? Physical strength alone? No, not necessarily. Of course, physical strength is important because if our health is not good enough, we will not be able to even focus on śravana, manana, and nididhyasa, right? We will be reading Upanishad, but mind will be on back pain, on knee pain. Okay, no doubt about that. So physical strength, of course, is important to have a healthy body, not to distract us from our study. But more than that, it's an inner strength to pursue the spiritual life. Okay, because why it is important? Because every spiritual seeker's life there will come the time, or will come times when we'll have doubt about the goal, doubt about the path, even doubt about whether spirituality is at all a real thing or just a fantasy. All of these doubts will come to a spiritual seeker's life. Okay. Bound to come in a serious seeker's life. If we read the life of the saints and illumined people, their life was not like a smooth graph like this, went from 0 to 100. No, you will see that there are a lot of doubts and what we call the dark nights of the souls. Dark nights of the souls. These everybody has to face. So how at those moments, what matters is most is the strength of conviction. Strength of conviction. That strength of conviction in spiritual path comes only through practice, dedication. Okay. That in my, say whatever, 10 years I am into Spirit Vedanta, or 7 years. In these years, my practice have shown me these are the undeniable benefits of Vedanta I have got. Okay. So I have to be little more patient towards the spiritual goal, whether I am progressing or not. Because this spiritual progress is very slow. Very slow. It is almost like swimming against the current. So standing still is itself is a progress. If we are not being carried down the water of worldliness, that itself is a progress. Okay. So spiritual progress is very slow, inch by inch, and it may sometimes frustrate us, discourage us, whether we are really, really into right thing or leave everything aside and go about the way we were going about, or many thousands and millions people are going about. In these moments, we need strength, a spiritual strength. That strength comes from practice alone. Why? Because practice will definitely give us some fruit. Practice will definitely give us some fruit. For example, when I started learning swimming, lot of watching videos did not work. But getting into the water, drowning a few times, then, taking some baby steps to float even for a while, that gave me some strength. That, well, now I cannot swim the whole stretch, but at least I can swim 15 feet, 20 feet. Okay. That means gradually I can increase how far I can swim. So what was the result of this conviction? That I practiced, that I was in water, I was drowning. Okay, I was not letting it go. So Upanishad is telling that those who don't have this kind of strength, which comes to practice, not through only study. Okay, it's a practice, many years of practice that is needed to succeed in this spiritual path. Just like it's like a marathon run. It's not a sprint. So 26 miles of marathon, in the beginning, those who run the marathons, if you ask them, they are not at all winning the race. They have set very small goals. Let me complete 5 miles. After they have completed, they think, let me complete 9 miles. That's how they complete 26 miles, 27 miles marathons that we see. I was reading that what keeps marathon runners going. No, they don't think of 15 miles. They don't think of 26 miles. They think the immediate ones. Let me focus the next 3 miles. Let me focus next 2 miles. That's how they keep going. Okay. So that strength comes from practice, dedication. That is needed. Second, nacha pramādāt. So this self cannot be realized if we are careless. Careless. This idea was alluded to earlier. You remember verse that the verse was 2.2.4. Pranavo dhanuhu sharo hi ātmā brahma tat laksham uccate āpramātena vedhavyam. So the goal is Brahman. Okay, and Om is the bow, and our own mind is the arrow. And what is the condition? That the arrow will strike the goal? Āpramātena. One has to be very alert. Pramād means making mistakes, forgetting spiritual ideal. Apramād means absent of that. And Shankaracharya emphasizes great value to this one goal, apramād, being alert. Why? It is like, driving very fast on freeway. Even a little bit of distraction, if the conditions are not good enough and the speed limit is high, too many lanes are merging, And at the same time, we are speeding, well, we are maintaining the speed of 80 miles per hour. Little bit of carelessness can cost many things. Similarly, to really, really succeed in spiritual life, we have to be alert about what we are doing, like taking a daily stock of how much time we are really spending for this pursuit. Is it spiritual life? Is it a priority for me or a secondary priority? There are many priorities, and spirituality comes towards the bottom of these priorities. That is a sign of carelessness. So this, for anything, to succeed in anything, we have to have that kind of, alertness or mindfulness about our goal. This is the same, that if we be careless about our spiritual life, then progress, there will be still progress, but not with the speed we want to have. Okay, it is same like that. To be alert, to remain alert about our spiritual life. This is very important, pramādāt. So, curbing our distraction from spiritual life, we have to daily, consistently invest in our spiritual life. Otherwise, it is pramādāt. Okay. Things which are not beneficial, we are still doing that, but we are compromising our spiritual practices. That is a mistake. Those who do that, no matter how much they read, how much they grasp, but when it comes to practice, if they are forgetful of the spiritual ideal, then it is impossible. I was telling someone that, I introduced the concept the other day, 3 types of light that captures our attention. One is spotlight, something in front of us. I have to attend the duties, the responsibilities, spotlight. Then daylight. Daylight is like understanding our mind, thinking, introspection. And finally, starlight. Starlight is not powerful light, but that is what gives us the direction. It is the navigation, starlights. If we forget starlights in our life, what will happen is we'll be too much engrossed with spotlights and daylights. Spotlights are things which are just in front of us. They will give us a lot of troubles because we'll forget the big picture, the starlight, where we want to go. Okay, that we'll miss. Altogether forgetting, we are driving, but forgetting where we are trying to go. Because now the sceneries, the directions in the freeway is dictating my goals. I forgot where I want to go. If that happens, then spotlights and daylights will become too much for us. Things of the day-to-day life will take too much of our attention, which are not that important, but we make them appear too important. And also daylight. Daylight is our inner rumination, ruminating about things which we don't have control over, or keep on worrying about future all the time, which has not come yet. All of this happen when we forget our starlight, our spiritual ideal. Just if we can remind ourselves even a few times a day about our starlight, we'll see this practical benefit that these spotlights and daylights will be in their place. They will get their place. We'll understand which goal belongs where, which is more important, which is my long-term goal. And the problem with long-term goals are they are not urgent. They are not immediate. So we have a tendency to ignore them. That is pramādāt. That is pramādāt. Because it is not urgent, it is not imminent, we keep them into back burner. All other goals, all other priorities become most important priorities for us. That is pramādāt. That is pramādāt. And that is not helpful for, Upanishad says, that is not helpful at all, forgetting our real spiritual goal. That is pramādāt. Okay. Finally, not only tapasā. Tapasā means physical austerities. And simply, some might think that if I live a very strict life, very disciplined life, that alone is sufficient. No, it is not. Okay, there are three types of austerities, even in Vedanta. One is kāyik, physical, vāchik. Vāchik is verbal, and finally, manasik, mental. Three types of austerities or three types of discipline. And what is physical austerities? Physical austerities is remaining calm under uncomfortable situations, okay, which are not very comfortable or very pleasant, but accept those situations. What is vāchik? Vāchik is not talking too much about things other than spiritual things. For a spiritual aspirant, vāchik or verbal austerity is, you remember this Upanishad itself told, anno vāca vimunchataha. That is, turn away from all nonsense talks, not only talks, nonsense things which we keep ourselves busy with. If we want spiritual success, then we have to think about how much we are reading, we are absorbing the spiritual things or material things. Okay, that is one vāchik. Finally, manasik. Manasik is mental austerity. What is mental austerity? Bringing the mind again and again to the spiritual goal. That is the real austerity. And among these three austerities, the easiest one is physical austerity. I am hungry, I am not eating. It is cold, I am not wearing enough of warm clothes. It is very visible, it is very easier than the other ones. So Upanishad says that only physical austerity, one may think I am doing so much. That alone will not. Okay. Only physical austerities I am doing, but not paying attention to the real essential things, that also will not help us. Then the next point is extremely controversial. It says that without insignia, one cannot attain the ātmā. Okay. What is insignia? Insignia means some external symbols, okay, or some characteristics. Characteristics of what? Characteristics that you have dedicated your life to spiritual pursuit. In other words, linga means really renouncing everything and embracing a monastic life. That is a outer monastic life too, a formal monastic life. That is aliṅgāt. That is Shankaracharya says. Okay, these are the characteristics. One has to have a declaration that I am really spiritual seeker. But then the question Anandagiri asks is, if it is true that one has to become a renunciate to realize ātmā, what about illumined people like Yagnavalkya, his wife Gargi. No, Gargi is not his wife. Gargi, then and Janaka, all kings, all of these people were illumined people. Then, but they were not monastics. Then Anandagiri, very nicely, I have to, yeah, Anandagiri says, sannyasa is sarva tyagatmaka. Teshamapi sattva abhimana abhava. So the Upanishad says one has to have sannyasa or renunciation to realize the Atman. Anandagiri says, what is renunciation? Renunciation means, true renunciation means renunciation of me and mine. Me and mine. Self-centeredness, selfishness, and self-centeredness. These are the most biggest obstacles for realizing the Atma. The more we are self-centered, that is small self-centered, ego-centered, the farther away we are from. Okay, so here aliṅgāt means those who have not tried to transcend their selfishness. That is the real renunciation. Renunciation of the ego. This belongs to me. This is my idea. I think this way. And all of these, we don't have to explain. We understand what ego is, what self-centeredness is. So that has to be transcended. And that very nicely mirrors with psychology, that we have seen several times, that according to the psychology, what is spiritual goal is self-transcendence. Self-transcendence is going beyond my small self-centeredness, my ego-driven activities, and rather thinking about something larger, a self-transcendence transcendent purpose. So that is needed. That is needed, and that is what Anandagiri says the meaning of sannyasa. A universal perspective. It's a universal perspective that is needed. True renunciation is internal, involving the dissolution of the ego and shift toward a selfless living. It is just like merging or dissolution of a water drop into the ocean. Okay. So we are now like water drop, each having our own individuality, our own desires, own minus, our own egos, and dissolve all of these and transcend all of these and be part of the vast self-transcendence. That is real renunciation. Okay, that is living behind a selfish life to a unselfish life, a bigger ideal. That is real monasticism is. That is needed. Okay, if such a person can do that, what happens? Viśate brahma dhāma. That person who strives with this right means. This right means, that is the being alert. Then what are the right means? And not only doing physical austerities, one who is alert, who has strength of conviction. What happens? They merge with the infinite. Viśate, as it were, they enters into Brahma Dhāma. Dhāma means here the reality of Brahman, which is absolute, the infinite, the vast. And this is the culmination of spiritual effort, transcending our small individuality to experience oneness with the cosmos. Ekātma bhava, sarvātma bhava. Okay. So what are the practical takeaways for the audience? That build inner strength. Strength is needed. And what is the inner strength? How it will come from? Through conviction. Through conviction of practice, spiritual practice. Then secondly, we have to stay alert to our spiritual ideal. That is regularly reminding us of our spiritual purpose and maintain focus. Not easy, but we have to do it again and again. And practice inner renunciation. What is inner renunciation? Let go of the ego-driven thoughts. Let go of the attachments of the ego and embrace a mindset of selflessness and oneness with this larger humanity or something bigger than us. These are needed for to realize the ātmā. Okay. Absence of these are obstacles for ātmā. Okay. Realization of ātmā. So in these two verses, we got 4 very important, although difficult spiritual qualities. So what are these 4 qualities? These 2 verses together, if we list them.
Yearning.
Yearning. Then strength, right?
Inner strength.
Inner strength that will come from practice and conviction. Then
building alertness.
Alertness, to remind ourselves about our spiritual goal. That is
inner renunciation.
Inner renunciation. So letting go of our ego, letting go of our smallness, self-centeredness. Okay. Look how nicely it fits, right? Because the goal of the Upanishad is sarvatma bhava, becoming one with the vast, becoming blurring the boundary between I and you, blurring the blur of the boundary between the subject and the object. Okay. And that can come only when we go beyond only our selfishness, self-centeredness, and even what we are having now, exaggerated narcissism everywhere. We are trying to flaunt what we are not. We are trying to show what we are not. All of these are just making us more egocentric, more self-centered. But Upanishad is telling us that we have to go beyond these smallness to realize the past reality. Okay. Next verses will be some praise for the illumined people. Okay, how they behave, what their experience is like, we shall see in our next class. But any question about the last verse?
Maharaj, is this only for this more suited to this monastic people, or because this relative world, the people in this world, is this slightly difficult? Always practice this.
Practice is difficult for everybody. Okay, no doubt about that. But definitely, monastic life is a help. Otherwise, no one would have. Okay, for as monastic, they have the advantage that they live in a monastic community and which is conducive to that. And secondly, the worldview that they live in is also conducive for spiritual practice. But Upanishads, we have seen that all the illumined people, none of them are monastics. Okay, so they could achieve all of these even remaining busy in their day-to-day pursuit. So they also have to do all of these, but with a different mindset. It's not about the duties or works one is engaged, but the way they are doing, that will make all the difference. Okay. Yes, Purni.
In this last verse, there were two things that you talked about, and I didn't know which words related to that. One was you said about the right means, and the other thing was about getting rid of the ego. So which were the words that...
Oh, right means, okay.
Yeah.
In the verse, there was a etaiḥ upāyaiḥ, yatate.
Okay. These upāyaiḥ, okay.
So, if you look at the email I sent and translations I sent, in those translations, I give word by word meaning.
Okay, okay.
There will find that by this means, eṣaḥ upāyaiḥ. Those who seek the ātmā by these means,
okay,
they enter into that brahma dhāma, that infinite.
And where is the ego part of it, the giving up the ego?
That was an interpretation from the word aliṅgāt.
Oh, aliṅgāt. Okay, okay, okay.
Any more question or anything you would like to add?
Could I add one quick comment, Swami, before we go?
Yes.
Gina's discouragement spoke to me too, and I just thought of two things to add quickly. One was from a bhakta's perspective that we move one step toward God, and God comes 10 steps toward us, just little bits. And then from a jnani perspective, that this idea of being chosen by the Atman, that really ultimately remembering that we already are that, it's peeling off these identifications and impurities. That gives me encouragement too, that ultimately we are that, I am that.
Yeah. Ultimately, it is already there, right? Yeah. Right. That's a source of encouragement for you. Yeah, true. All right, then we shall take up the next verses in our next class. Till then, have a good time, have a good weekend. Okay.